Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 1% Frequency Podcast. I am really excited to do this episode with you today. And we're going to be talking about just such a cool topic on such a deep and nuanced level. Because when we're in entrepreneurship, right, conversations around money are inevitable. And money is one of the most charged topics to our subconscious. That is just undeniable. And not just to our subconscious, even to our conscious, the conversations happening around money on this planet, the amount of conditioning, like it is on every level. And it is really my intention for you guys today to hopefully gain a much more nuanced and deeper understanding of certain concepts around money that personally were truly instrumental when it came to me quantum leaping from making, 1K, but really even below 1K months for about 2 years in my business to now a second consecutive 5-figure launch. And we're currently at around 15K. We are still 3 weeks away from finishing the launch. So we'll see what the number is, right? But after my first quantum leap last December, so that's about 5 months ago now, where we ended up the launch with about 20K with all the add-ons. Now to the second one in a row, I can confidently say we're not having a coincidence case here, right? This is now a repeatable pattern. Both times it happened with having less than 1,000 people in my audience altogether. So with the first launch, we had on Instagram about 85 followers, and now we're having just under, I think we're at 270 roughly. And my email list is still under 400 people, right? Just so we have an idea of the audience size. So we're not having any immediate objections of, oh my God, I can't do it because XYZ. You can do it. Like how much money you make, all of that in your business does not have much to do with the audience. Is audience building important as you're going long-term in business? Of course, because you want to serve more people, but the number of people in your audience and the number in your account, there is no energetic entanglement between the two of them unless you make it. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today. And really my intention is, guys, I was wondering for a long time why I seem to have been so much slower in business than many other people. And objectively speaking, this isn't true, right? Like it isn't true. We all see online these, stories of people who are making it, who are like, oh my God, I hit my first 100K cash month, like 6 months into my business, or like second year into my business, or whatever, like some crazy achievements, which are amazing, right? Like nothing to say, it totally happens. And then we also sometimes get into these stories that that's normal, and it's not normal, right? There are a lot of people out there for whom it takes a long time before they actually even break through for their business to be consistently profitable. And if we think about, companies outside of the online business space, it's actually quite impressive if a startup becomes fully profitable within, let's say, a 5-year window, right? Like, so we're just talking, and obviously these are two very different things, right? If you're having an online thing compared to if you're having a team, a startup, like products, physical things. However, we get into these stories, and I did as well, right? And so for a long time, I was like, why is it taking me so much longer to seemingly break through? And after I was doing all the things, because if you guys have known anything about my story, which listen to the episode 1 if you're interested, but I've done a lot in terms of investing in myself, investing in my business. I've hired strategists, I've hired ads experts, I've learned all about how to leverage human design in business, like I did different energetics programs. Basically, I have been in business since late 2020. I've been studying it ever since, really. I mean, I was doing my PhD on the side, so obviously it wasn't a full-time thing until about a year and a half ago. However, there has been, a relatively long period when my business wasn't taking off. And obviously there were a number of reasons. The 100% major one was the subconscious, which is what I teach. However, what I have also realized is that I do actually tend to move more slowly through certain transitions in business than some other people. And for a long time, I was ascribing that to, oh, maybe you just don't get it. Oh, maybe you don't have the knowledge. Oh, maybe you don't have this and this and that. But as I have been reflecting on my journey with money, over these past, years, and specifically the shifts that have occurred over the past 6 months, I have actually realized something very different. And I want to share this with you guys because I think there are I tend to attract people who are looking for a lot of depth, right? Depth is absolutely 100 million% my core gift in, human design, anywhere else you look at it. And to me, I am one of those annoying people that will keep asking why, until things make sense. And I will not be able to actually truly move forward and build something really big until I get it. And a lot of people, when they're talking about money and explaining certain things, we hear things that I didn't get. Like, oh, what do you mean you don't have enough money to afford this? Like, this is just a story you're telling yourself. And I look at my account, I'm like, no, dude, it's clearly not just a story. Like, I see the number in my account. Like, what is this shit, right? And there are a lot of other things of, just stories around money that we hear from Money Mindset World and other people that I was not at a point where I would truly actually understand what they meant when they were telling us these things, and I wouldn't move forward. Because the truth is that unless you truly understand something people are saying, and I'm not saying understand just intellectually, right? I am saying it resonates and it is congruent with your energy at a very deep level. If you don't actually get to the core when that happens, you are just outsourcing your power to someone else because you're doing what your coach is telling you. You're listening to them when they're like, oh no, if you're raising your prices, you're not leaving anyone behind. And then you keep raising your prices and you feel like you're leaving people behind, but you're doing it. You're actually outsourcing your power to your coach. And you're constantly saying, well, but they know better, blah, 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 which of course, there is difference and gap in knowledge between you and your coach, right? Obviously, you're hiring people who are more competent. However, when it comes to these questions, you should have energetic congruence when you're making these decisions. And if you're making decisions that are not aligned, that are not in integrity with you, it's going to catch up with you and it's going to bite you in the ass. And this is what we see then is that people build these businesses and they're actually outsourcing their power to their coaches. They're making decisions that they don't truly understand why they're making that decision. It's just their coach is telling them, oh, you're going to make a lot more money. And then lo and behold, they build a business to whatever number, whatever age, quote unquote, of the business they build it. And then they go and tear everything down and go through a fucking 2-year-long spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul, because everything they built was on wobbly foundations and actually was not aligned with who they are. Right? And I remember I did a master class years ago. That's not true. It's 2 years ago with Victoria Washington. If you don't know her, she is really freaking cool. I would recommend checking her work out. She just, the level of power and clarity and truth that woman speaks is truly I don't have role models in this industry. If anyone asks me who are your role models, I'll tell them Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, Dr. Zach Bush, and David Attenborough, right? These are my role models. They're not in the business coaching industry, but she's a woman I certainly deeply admire. And I remember her talking about alignment. And she said, if you're thinking about alignment and you're thinking about a car, right? Your car is not going to go faster because all of your wheels are now truly in the right plane, in the right alignment. But you're going to be going a lot more smoothly. And the most important thing is you have longevity and you're moving in the right freaking direction. You can still push the motor. But it's going to be wobbly and it's going to break down a lot faster. And I've been thinking about that ever since is alignment is so important because it guarantees longevity, right? It guarantees that your business is actually built step by step on the right foundation and it's going to be sustainable over time. And this is something that for me is non-negotiable. I cannot build something if I don't think is 100% congruent with me. And this is something is the standard I hold to myself, and it's not a standard I'm holding to myself consciously. It's just how I am. And so this is something for me that has just been the truth all along. If I don't feel like I'm 100% congruent, that everything is making sense and matching, I'm gonna actually energetically hold myself back. I used to think that was a drawback. I don't think it's a drawback anymore. I think there's nothing more important than for your business to be in integrity, and that includes money. And you should understand why you're making decisions you're making in terms of money, why you're spending money, how you're spending money, how you're circulating money, how you're investing money, why you're investing in yourself, why certain energetic moves with money lead to one outcome over the other. And this is what I want to talk to you guys about today, because there have been 3 major shifts I have experienced in my relationship with money over this past 6 months. And that's after I had done so much money mindset work with some of the leading experts in the industry, journaled my hand off, God knows how many times. And you guys know me, I don't love journaling. It moves way too slowly. The speed at which my brain runs, like the journal does not keep up. So normally throw it and just take my laptop out, right? Anyway, tangent. But I have really digested, and for me to have this quantum leap, and to now have, consecutive now over 6 months of income not dipping at all, right? I didn't have a single going back to 1K month ever since. So I'm going to dive into this, and I hope it's going to provide you a new nuanced perspective that is going to help you understand money at a deeper level. And I really hope it's going to activate some things within you so that you can start seeing money differently, truly, truly differently, beyond just, oh, what did you learn from your parents? Of course, that's important as well. But at the core level, fundamentally, how you perceive and work with money. So the first of the 3 shifts that I want to talk about, and it's potentially the most important one, is money, as I said, is such a charged topic to our subconscious, right? The way we view money is so deeply entangled with power. Money is so deeply entangled with abuse. Money can be entangled with, using it as a replacement for love in certain families. Money has been represented as this evil, bad thing in so many places. We have the sayings like money is the root of all evil, all of those things. So that is just the depth to which the entanglement around money goes in our subconscious is truly quite profound, right? And things I've seen in the one-on-one sessions with my clients, etc., is people would use, would keep themselves poor intentionally to stay connected to their family, and not even through this oh my God, I'm going to stay poor because they're poor. No, so that they would keep getting money from their parents because their parents would provide for them, but then that would be the only time when they would still be connected with their family. So it was this resentment-based connection, but it was the only connection they had because there was no other emotional intimacy. So truly the level of entanglement we have around money is pretty phenomenal. It is quite incredible. But one of the biggest shifts that I made around money is starting to see it as something completely different at a fundamental level. And this is that all money comes from Creator. And this is a simple truth because everything comes from Creator. The quote unquote good, quote unquote bad, everything from the biggest monstrosities happening on this planet to, the loveliest things, it all comes from Creator. And that includes money. And the way I think about it, and this is described so beautifully in the book Feel Free to Prosper by Marilyn Janet, she says that, your business, your clients, all of these things, they are channels, right? It's like how if you have pipes in the house and you get water didn't come from the pipes. Pipes were just conduits for it. And it is the same thing here. And this truly brings us immediately, not 1, not 2, but 100 layers deeper, because we begin understanding that our relationship with money is about our relationship to Creator. And our relationship with Creator is, again, subconsciously a very complex thing because we carry on our genetic DNA lines a lot of programming around God. So God is abusing us, abusive, God is judging, God is punishing, right? God is a man. If you have, this is one of the most common things, if you have programming in your genetic line that God is a man, and then you also carry beliefs that men are abusive, men are cheaters, men are liars, men betray you, all of those things, which again, on the genetic line, most women do, you're going to have a pretty hard time actually trusting Creator. And this is something that in the second round of the CEO frequency, I am going to be adding a whole new module where we're going to actually be clearing our programs around God. tangent again, but it is really important because to me, my bank account started being consistent, and I mean consistently providing for me, when I actually began fully surrendering and really releasing into allowing myself to be supported by Creator, by the universe, by life itself. It truly started happening when I allowed myself to, it felt like leaning back into the web of life. And I don't think that I can describe it in a better way than that. But it was the moment when I started realizing that there was actually no reason for me not to be supported. And this, I think, was the most fundamental shift when people would ask me after the launch, the first one, what changed? And I would say it went from trying to find all these reasons in my mind for why I'm always supported, why money loves flowing to me, why yada, 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 to just being like, but why not? And that is, for some people, it can be an instant shift. For some people, it can be a process because it entails us actually letting go of our armoring, of all the places where we believe that we have to control everything, that we have to do it all on our own, that we are alone in this life, that we cannot rely on other people, Creator, money, men to be resourced. And you have to understand it's a very interesting thing because the ultimate truth is that everything's connected, right? It's unity. So there's no me, there's no you, there's no man, there's no anything, right? It's just God. It's just God differentiated in all these different forms, like the tree I'm looking at, this chair that everything's sitting on, the boxes that are all around me right now because we're moving to Sweden in 2 weeks. It's all God. But then our subconscious doesn't view things that way because our subconscious, it's interesting. On the one hand, our subconscious allows us to connect to all there is, to experience unity, but also at the same time, it's the very thing that creates the separation. So point being is that things started shifting truly profoundly for me when I began realizing that as a child of this cosmos, I am meant to be supported. I am meant to be provided for. I'm not meant to suffer. I'm not meant to struggle. I'm not meant to hustle. Like those are all, we have a lot of subconscious contracts that, we have to suffer to be virtuous. We have to suffer to please God. Those tend to be past life or ancestral, although some of us took them on in our childhood as well. But we also were all conditioned with believing that life just is hard. Life just is suffering. And you hear this so often from people saying it, and they're just programs running in the background of our collective consciousness. Of course, as long as we believe that life is painful, life is suffering, life is all these things, we keep creating so much more pain and suffering on the collective compared to what is even necessary. And we will not stop doing so until we fundamentally change our relationship with the universe, our relationship with nature, our relationship with ourselves, our relationships, the end. That's the core. Spoken like a true Libra, right? But this to me was the fundamental shift in understanding that money isn't this thing that's separate. Money is simply one of the ways in which Creator, in which the universe provides for me. Because the universe and Creator are unconditionally loving. They want you to thrive. They want you to be healthy. There's no reason that God, Creator, Source, Universe would want you to have a shit time. Why? That doesn't make any sense. The moment you start truly deconditioning, the moment you start tapping into your soul, you realize it's all bullshit. But the programming runs deep. The programming runs deep to the point that there are most people on this planet today wouldn't even be open to listening to this conversation and considering that things can be different, because then things have to truly fundamentally change in their lives, right? And we don't like change. Our subconscious doesn't like change. A lot of us were taught to bond over poverty, bond over misery, bond over our shared miserable experience of life. And it's a tough shift. It's a tough shift going from that to actually embracing life can be really freaking easy. What if I never have to think about money again from this point of view of like, but oh my God, where is the next Where is the next paycheck coming from? Where is the next transaction coming from? The next payment coming from? What if that was just a thing of the past and I never ever have to worry about it again? Most people truly cannot imagine that. And if they can, it's conditional. Yes, it's possible to have a safe, stable job, but someone else rules my schedule, but someone else tells me what's my income ceiling, but someone else determines when I can go on holiday. And this is the other thing we have with money, where money basically has power over us, and those who pay us money have power over us. But this is simply a reflection of our messed up relationship to God, because there is no other. There is no other that can rule over us unless we let it. And the moment I started truly understanding, I am so deeply loved by Creator. I am so deeply loved by the cosmos. I am infinitely resourced, and Creator wants me to be. And Creator wants everybody else to be. There is no zero-sum game. No one else is losing if I have more money. That moment I was like, oh, why would the money not flow to me? And that's it. That's literally it. And then the only things that come after that point, right? Of course, there can be other quote unquote blocks when it comes to money coming into your life as entrepreneurs, but they have to do with different things, right? And I speak about it a lot. There can be a problem with visibility. There can be a problem that you believe that if you have a client, you won't be able to meet their expectations, and then they're going to turn on you, they're going to burn your business down. You know, it's the whole prosecution conditioning around it. Maybe you believe that if you have more clients in your life, that's going to mean that you're going to be overwhelmed because you have programming that you have to trade time for money, right? At all of these levels, absolutely, we can then block money coming to us through clients. For example, money can still come other ways. It's just money is always looking for the path of least resistance. And for most people, the path of least resistance is getting a job, because they believe in their subconscious this is just a safe thing. And if you have been watching the world, this is a very smart piece of conditioning to question, because the world is getting more and more volatile. And there are quite a few experiences that happened, for example, in the past 6 months alone, that I know in my life, were people who thought they were sorted for life, had stable jobs, all of that stuff. It all came crashing down in a very short amount of time. And these people have a carpet pulled out from under their feet because they built this belief that someone else has power over them. And then we really are in trouble, because then we're going to be looking for the next person to take care of us. And there are obviously all these other programs of being too old to find a new job and all the other stuff people believe that is keeping them constricted and small. But point being, the only security, stability, safety, support in life that is absolute is Creator. There is no one else that you can fully, truly rely on. Everything else is temporary. It's transient, because anything material is transient. The only thing in this universe that is absolute is God. The end of story. So the moment you start placing your trust, your support, like being resourced, being supported, being truly cared for and loved into Creator, rather than into your boss, your job, your company, your clients, your whatever else, that is the only time you're actually going to feel truly safe in life. That's the hack. And then wait until when you have the frequency locked in of what money represents to you. So support, safety, it can be freedom, it can be choice. When you clear your relationship with support, safety, freedom, choice, responsibility, and Creator, and if you want to do that, come into CEO frequency, because we do all of these things, then you will be instantly a match for money, because there's just going to be absolutely no resistance in your energetic field for that to come to you. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 was big. Oh, so big. And again, this was another one of those where I needed some time to start really getting it. And this is that I stopped letting money make decisions for me. And this one is so hugely important because the vast majority of people on this planet let money make decisions for them. If what house you live in is dictated by money, money makes decisions for you. If what car you're driving, the decision is made by money, money is making decisions for you. If how you invest in yourselves, what mentors you pick, what education you're getting, what you're investing in your business, depends on the number in your account. Money makes decisions for you. In the point 3, we're going to go into more nuance around this topic because this is like the surface level and then it goes a lot deeper. But this is the truth. And one of the coaches I listened to a while ago, she was basically like, if money is dictating your life choices, you're being money's little bitch. And this is the truth. And I want you to imagine, because everything in this life are relationships, right? It's how we relate to one another because there's no you, no I. It's just the energetic space in between. Same goes for money. So I want you to imagine right now if money was a person. And if that person, let's say you're a woman and you're in a relationship with a man. And that man is telling you, no, you can't have this thing. No, you're not allowed to pick up a new hobby. No, you're not allowed to go invest in yourself with that mentor. What would you think about that? Right. If your best friend was in that relationship, you would tell them, get the fuck out of that relationship as soon as you can. But the vast majority of people treat money that way. Money can be a convenient excuse, right? When we say we can't do something because of money, but in reality, we just don't want it. But oftentimes, money is a convenient excuse for our subconscious. Because this idea that money has power over us has become so widely accepted in our society that if you say, I don't have money for it, no one will even blink twice. Everybody will be like, oh, yeah, you don't have money for it, no problem, da-da-da-da-da-da. Because we're all so indoctrinated when this like middle class money conditioning, poverty conditioning, etc. But this conversation is not about money. It's actually a conversation about power. And if you follow me, you will know I love talking about power. I'm Scorpio rising, Pluto, Mars in the first house, like conversations about power and relationships, Libra and Pisces, are literally like my bread and butter. But this is a power conversation because it's a conversation around who has power over you, who dictates you, who determines what you do with your life. Are you letting a number in your account do that? And it's not the question of what number is in your account right now. Because there are all sorts of objections. I know they're coming to the surface, but this is true. I have this much money, da 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 da. As I'm saying, we're going to go deeper into that in like the third part. But it's how you think about it. It's how you're choosing to think about it going forward. Are you going to spend your life being governed by this other force that is in and of itself inert? Money doesn't have consciousness in and of itself. Money doesn't think. All these people are talking money loves to move fast, blah, blah, blah. Money doesn't love anything. Money is neutral. It's what we project onto money and what we make it mean that determines the relationship we have with it. And the vast majority of people have signed this subconscious agreement, an obligation, a commitment with money, that money rules their life. And the funniest thing is that a lot of those people who normally are people who have not that much money will be saying you that people who have a lot of money, that they're slaves to money. But who is the slave to money? The person for whom money is making decisions. And if money is dictating where you can go on holiday, if money is dictating when you can go eat out, if money is dictating these things, if money is what stands between you and your true desires, you are a slave to money, regardless of the number in your account. And this is the truth because it's a power game, a power dynamic we are observing. So what needs to happen here is starting to ask ourselves, who leads whom? You need to become the one who leads money. You are the one who makes decisions, because the truth is that you're a fractal of creator. As such, you are infinitely powerful, and nothing outside of you has power over you unless you let it, because the law of free will in this universe is absolute. So can we start coming into a different relationship with money where we lead money? And remember, guys, it's never the action we're taking. It's always the energy that we're taking action from. So even if your bank account right now is not huge, if you're shifting into the frequency, but I'm choosing to lead that money, I am investing that money in alignment with my desires. And I am the one who's making my decision. I'm not listening to every time I could use money as an excuse. Every time a story comes into my mind, oh my God, what if it's all running out? Da, 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 da. Which is the other thing that needs to get addressed. If you want to be making a lot of money, you cannot be thinking about what if money is always running out. Like, this just isn't a part of your reality when you're making a lot of money. End of story, right? But can you start shifting yourself in the energy of, I am the one who leads. I am the one who's making decisions. I am in the driver's seat in my life, not money. And from this frequency, you are now holding the healthy masculine, and money is now simply creators' resources. It's just energy. It's just a form of energy we get exchanged for another form of energy, the end. And you're now circulating energy. You're circulating consciousness. You're circulating frequency from your place of creation, from you claiming being a creator of your own reality. And watch as you do that from your soul alignment, from your spiritual mission, from your pure intent, how this money now circles around, empowering others, but also always coming back to you. Because when you're in alignment with yourself, with your soul, and when you've cleared the programming around suffering and poverty and all of that shit, why would you not be supported? Number 3, I stopped believing. I stopped looking for an excuse that money wasn't there. But I want to go into this conversation from a deeply nuanced perspective, because this is a conversation that if we don't have nuance with it, it's very easy to, again, be confused and go into like, oh my God, these people are telling me money's always there. I'm looking at my account, money isn't there. What is going on? And then we're confused, right? Okay. And so we need to have this conversation alongside the conversation about desire. Because here is the truth. It doesn't matter whether or not you have enough money for something you don't truly want. And what I have observed is that for the things you truly deeply desire, especially things you deeply desire that are your next step, money is always there. And this, I think, is such an important thing to think about, because people get into these stories, they're like, oh, I desire having this, sexy Porsche, blah, 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 but I don't have the money for it. But then the question is, but do you actually desire that? And most of the time, the answer is no. And if the answer is yes, cool, you desire a Porsche now, but actually, you need to take a few steps before you get there. So the way I'm thinking about it, right, is that, let's say for me, right, I say now, I desire an 8-figure company that's going to serve millions of people all over the world. I want to bring subconscious reprogramming to every single human being on this planet that desires to do this work for them. And I want to make it accessible so that people from any corner of the world, anywhere, can do this work. I am not ready to hold an 8-figure company. Where? With whom? What team? What skill? What expertise? Not a fucking chance. right? We got to learn first how to scale to consistent 10 to 20K months. And then we got to figure out how we work with assistants. And then we need to figure out how to hire a team. And then we have to figure out the systems and the logistics and all of this other stuff. You guys get it. And I've seen people, I've worked one-on-one with people that I would talk to them and they would come to me. And these were people that were just like right starting their coaching business, like whatever, less than 6 months ago. And they were charging, lower prices for their containers and da-da-da. And they would come to me and be like, oh my God, Alja, but I know that my structure and all of this is not optimized to be making, like hundreds of thousands in my business, da-da-da-da. And I was like, yo, dude, let's start thinking about you getting your first 5 clients and getting some testimonials so that we actually have a proven container and you can then build from that. And let's first get you feeling really solid about your offer and your coaching so that you can confidently show up and sell out your freaking spots. We don't have to be thinking 58 steps ahead. And that wasn't 58. That was like 50,000 steps ahead. But we sometimes get into the story and then we sometimes even use more subtle things as an excuse. So let's say that we're seeing that there's a coach we really like and we really feel like we wanted to get, private mentoring from them, but private mentoring from them is, whatever, 10K a month, and we don't have 10K a month. If you're not making 10K a month in your business, you don't probably need a private mentoring from someone who's built a multi-7-figure company. You probably need their group coaching container. You may, best case, need their mastermind. You may first need to learn how to even position yourself in the market, how to master messaging skills, right? Like how to build a signature offer and sell it out in your sleep. You don't need private coaching from someone who has built an 8-figure company. And we will look at these things that are not our next steps. And then we will create this story around how we're a victim because we can't have that. And then we're going to the story of like, these people are charging these crazy prices and obviously I can't afford that, blah, blah, blah. But it was never meant for you. And probably if you paid the money and went into that container, it would be a waste of time for you and that person, because that person will be like, why am I privately coaching you when I built this whole offer suite where you can go and learn all these skills in a totally different environment? And I am now mentoring you on things that you could watch a video on. And so what I have realized, and this is with a lot of hindsight, looking back, the universe will never put a next step in front of you that is truly aligned with your desires without you having the money for it. And it truly doesn't have to do with money. Truly, it is the truth that for most people, money is an excuse. Because instead of looking for an opportunity, instead of looking at where the next step is, instead of just freaking moving forward, we are finding all these excuses for why not now, why we don't have the money, and we are looking and using things as a justification that are not even an obvious next step. And I'm speaking as someone who used to do that. And it was one of the things I truly had to shift on a very deep level in order to have a financial breakthrough. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about under this last point is also the fact that a lot of the time we also use not having money as an excuse, and we do not actually do our due diligence. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the time we will find a program, a mentor we want to work with, and there will be something inside of us that is going to say, oh, I want this. And you're going to feel it. And it's not always, 100% full body yes. Like if you know anything about human design and all those things, there are some of us that are not designed in that way. Like I'm an emotional authority. I, by the way, get sometimes full body instant yes. I sometimes make very rapid decisions for big things because you're not really limited by human design or astrology when you're working with the methodology that I use, right? But there are also times when I made a decision that I was like, is it a full body yes? Is it not a full body yes? Da, 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 da. And then I really, that's actually a good trick that I would say I recently used. And one thing I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend this much more money. Like I've already circulated, almost 4K this month and different things. And then I, tuned into it and asked myself a question, but would you make that decision if you had, 20 more K in your account right now? And, it wasn't a decision that would put me into debt or anything like that. Like I could do it. I was just a bit like, oh, I've already spent this money. And then I tuned into it. If I had, let's say 10, 20 more K in my account right now, would I do it? And the answer was yes. And I was like, well, fucking go do it. Like, this is then coming from this place of scarcity, is more money coming in, blah, blah, blah. Like we don't fuck with that shit. Right. And I went and I moved and I paid. Right. But the important thing is that a lot of the time we get into a story of not having money when this isn't objectively true. And I will never forget, that was the first time I invested it was actually a very big investment for me at the time. That was in 2020. The first time I ever invested into business coaching. I had no business. I was just starting out, transitioning, not even transitioning. I was halfway through my PhD and I was going into holistic health, which was my first business, right? And I went to this introductory call with a person and I was curious about signing up, and it was a 2-year coaching program, and the price was 15K. And at the time, I was making maybe 1,800 euros a month, living in, one of the most expensive cities in Europe. That's a barista level salary for here, right? So we're paying like 700 or so euro a month just for rent, right? Without bills, without everything else that comes with it. And I had a total meltdown. And at a time, I didn't have like any established relationship with money. My relationship with money was always make sure you're making money and always only spend as little as you can. And then don't look at your bank account and just trust that the money will always be there. Which is crazy. Obviously that we don't do anymore. But this was my way of doing it. I didn't know how much money I had in my account. I didn't know how much money was coming out every month. I didn't know what all the running expenses and bills were there, right? I went through my entire university on a scholarship, working 3 jobs, spending minimally, and that was kind of pretty much a guarantee that I would always have money in my bank account. Never a lot. I was in London at university, which London is like, today is like triple as insanely expensive, but even back then it was insanely expensive. But that was my strategy. That's not obviously a strategy for managing your finances or stewarding money responsibly, but that was it. And so I remember getting off of that call, and it was this point of humongous friction, because it's this friction between your mind, your subconscious, and your soul, where your soul is go, do it, like you're moving on to a new path, like let's freaking go. And your mind is like, da, can't afford it, too much money, da. All these stories. And I remember having a total meltdown and going to my partner. And my partner is definitely a lot more financially savvy than in different areas, I would say, than me. But back then he was like way more financially savvy than me. And so I go to him and I'm having this meltdown. I'm crying. I'm in like this total like victim mode, how I really want to do this, how I don't have the money. And he looks at me and he goes, well, let's sit down and look at your finances. And I was like, what? She's like, what are your monthly expenses? Like, what is your budget? How much money are you okay actually setting aside every month? Like, da. And I had such humongous resistance to it first, right? Which is what happens when we're not used to working with money, and when money represents, safety, all these things that to our lineages, it represented a lot of like constriction, suffering, limitation. Anyways, we sit down, we make an Excel spreadsheet, and we start putting in the numbers, and turns out that, I could actually make it work. And he sat down, he was like, okay, Alja, I see that this means really a lot to you, it's very important to you, and I desire to support you with this, so you can borrow 5K from me, and then 10K you can save up. We made the calculations, and, will it be super, easy? Will you be able to go splurge on other things? No, but it will not jeopardize your needs. Like, you'll be totally able to eat. You'll be totally able to do all these other things. You'll just be putting aside that amount of money every month. And you're going to pay in like this payment plan. This makes the most sense. And it's going to work out. And that was a truly profound shift for me, because on paper, I didn't have that money. On paper, it didn't make any sense for me to invest that. But there were also actually so many things that happened in that. First of all, it really shifted how I was looking at things. It was the first time it forced me to really look at my money and realizing I was using it as an excuse. Like, I didn't even do my due freaking diligence. I was just straight up going into, I don't have the money, even though it was something my soul was calling me to truly do. Then second thing that also happens, and this I think is really important, and I want to speak to this point, is also a lot of the time we can also have a lot of constriction around asking for help. And if we have a problem asking for help, it probably means we're having subconscious programming around, I have to do it all on my own, all of these kind of things. And truly, most of the time, this isn't the case. And if it is the case, it's because you have programming and you're emitting the frequency of don't support me, which is true story. Everything you're attracting in your life, you're attracting because of the frequency you're emitting. But this was a very profound moment where other things were initiated, because it was also the moment when my partner looked at me and said, I truly believe in you. I truly believe in what you're creating. I'm willing to help you out with this amount of money for you to carry this out. And I wasn't used to that, guys. Like, I don't come from poverty at all. I also don't come from huge levels of privilege according to the Western standards. I would have never been able to go to university in England. If I hadn't got a scholarship, my family could have never paid for it. In high school, it was the kind of thing where I trained horse riding. I really, really loved it. And I couldn't do it on a higher level because spending, more than 200 euros a month was not an option for us, right? I could never go to my parents and be like, can you give me 5,000 euros for that, right? And yet in that moment, it was kind of shown to me that when there's a step ahead of you that's calling you, the money will come, because it doesn't make any sense for it not to. And I truly want you to think about it from a greater perspective, because the universe creator is always putting steps ahead of you that are leading you towards your highest evolution, highest timeline, your divine timing. The universe creator, God, they want you. Everybody fucking wants you to succeed. Everybody wants you to follow your joy, want you to follow your passion. So this universe is not just some, ironic cosmic joke where creator is dangling a carrot in front of your face and then being like, haha, you cannot have it. It doesn't work that way. This is our perception because we were conditioned in so many ways that we aren't supported, we aren't taken care of, we can't always have what we want, right? And I'm not talking from this brat level entitlement frequency, but I'm talking from desire frequency, right? We buy into this narrative someone else controls our life. And then we project that onto money. But the reality is that the step that is actually ahead of you, there's always a way for you to make it work. And most of the time, we don't actually do our due diligence. We don't truly look at our finances. We don't have maybe a tough conversation with our partner if they can support us. We don't look at other sources and alternatives for money where we could actually take the next step. And of course, what I'm speaking here is I'm speaking about steps that are in alignment, where we feel on a deep level, I truly desire this. I desire to work with this person. I desire to develop this skill. It doesn't have to make sense, but there's just a moment where that happens, that resonance happens, and you stand at the crossroads. Will you make that choice? Will you make the choice for your highest timeline, or will you pull back and come into a story that you don't have the money? And behind that story is the story of, I'm alone. I'm unsupported. I can't have my highest evolution. I can't have what I truly desire. This is what you're actually saying with that choice. These are the beliefs that need to be examined underneath that decision of I don't have money. One thing you're going to learn if you come work with me is that the problem is never the problem. We think it's a money problem, and then you start digging and you realize it's a resentment problem, it's a relationship problem, it's your way of how you view yourself problem. It never has to do with money because, as I said, money's not even real, right? Like, especially today, it's just a number in your account, right? Yet we make it mean so much and we make it control us, right? And what I have found in my business is that the faster I moved with money, the faster money circulated back. And the faster I move, and that's not because money loves speed. As I said, money doesn't fucking give a shit about anything because money doesn't feel or think. But as you're making rapid decisions with money, you're making an energetic statement. You're sending out an energetic signal. And that energetic signal is, I trust myself. I know I create my own reality. I am choosing alignment and desire over fear and constriction. I am moving fast because I trust that Creator has my back. And it is those beliefs that make successful entrepreneurs so incredibly fast in their decisions. They're also the same beliefs that are creating so much success. And as you probably realize, those beliefs that I just mentioned, they don't have anything to do with quote unquote money blocks, money beliefs. It's about how they view themselves. It's about how they view their role on this planet. It's about how they view themselves in relationship with Creator. And I saw that this month, another little story that comes to mind is, we're trying to play the game of logic and safety. And for example, this month in my business, I spent about 5K on my business that I wasn't intending to. The first one was about 1,500, went into paying experts for the next round of the CEO frequency because it just felt so aligned. And I felt the nudge and I was like, I desire to do this. I want to bring continuously deeper and deeper depth into CEO frequency. I'm bringing in these experts because I know they're going to elevate the experience so freaking much. Then I received an email. So funny. Like, the way the universe works is just so fucking funny. And it was this email I received, and it was like, last call for this retreat happening in Scotland this fall. Business retreat. That's a coach that I only ever paid like low ticket offers. I never worked with her in like higher proximity. And I saw that email. I was like, what do you mean last call? Like, I haven't seen any of the previous emails, and I normally read her emails. Like, I open them. But I saw this, and this was one of the moments when I'm an emotional authority in human design. I had an instant sacral, like, fuck yes. I went on Instagram. I had no idea how much it costed. And I was like, can you, like, I'm interested, send me the details. And that was in the evening. And then I sent that DM. And then I went and I was like, oh God, like, I feel a really strong pull, and this is going to tie so perfectly into this third point. I feel such a strong pull. I really want to do it. Like, I really have this deep desire to actually do an in-person thing. But what if now, she comes back to me and it's like a thing that's like, whatever, like 5 to 10K, and like, yeah, I could pay for it, but it would really stretch me thin, And I could see it as like frequency of constriction creeping in. And I was like, look, Alja, let's just see what it is and we're going to make a decision. But I created a story, coming from scarcity of like, I am going to be asked to make such an insane, crazy decision. Like, the universe is going to ask me to do something crazy, crazy, crazy that is going to really stretch me and blah, blah, blah. And, the universe will ask you to make stretchy decisions. The universe will ask you to be courageous. Like, you cannot be an entrepreneur without courage. Like, you're not going to last very long. But I also don't believe that the universe will be necessarily asking you that you freaking like jeopardize your future, go into massive debt, like any of these things to progress. And I'm not saying there are maybe moments for some people. I'd love to see why they co-create that, because I think it's quite likely that they actually need this massive investment to actually light the fire under their ass to motivate them to move forward. But I don't believe it's a prerequisite. Like, why would it be? The universe is also not testing you. This is another story when people are like, the universe sends you tests. No, we're not in fucking school. Like, stop taking human constructed systems and projecting them onto the fucking brilliance that is the laws of the universe. Like, this is such a human fucking construct that also ties into religious programming of heaven and hell, that if you, are perfect and pass all of your tests with the highest score, then you're never going to be unhappy again, da da da. what fucking ever. That's not how the universe works. Point being, the universe is not going to ask you necessarily like to, fucking blow your nervous system out through an investment. I would never recommend doing that, by the way. But in that moment for me, I was like, oh my God, da 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 da, and it highlighted this belief I had that this was going to happen on some level. And then the next morning, I received an email, a message back, and the retreat was like the most reasonable freaking price I could ever ask for. It was like, I'm not going to say it was a no-brainer. It was still like, a 4-figure investment, but it wasn't anything that I was like, wow, if I pay this, I'm going to cut my like bank account in half. And I was like, oh, like, of course, the universe is not going to give me the next step that I can't afford. Like, I'm feeling such a strong pull. Of course, this is for me. Of course, I can do it. And mind it, in that moment, I could have gone into stories. I could have gone into a million stories. Why I've already invested, over 3,000 euros this month in business. And what if I'm not like having blah, 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 this much money coming in? And oh, is this really the smartest investment? And oh my God, is it the best time? Because it's between my brother's wedding and then my own wedding, like a month later. And, I could have created like 70,000 stories around that. But what mattered was that I had a desire and the money was there. And I paid for it. Half an hour later, I went online. I had tickets booked. 15 minutes later, the end, we're not thinking about it. And this is the way I started moving with money that has truly shifted things for me. And that has money started coming back to me because of this. And it has little to do with money. And it has everything to do with how I trust myself, everything to do with how I trust Creator, everything to do with how I see myself as being in a relationship with all of creation. And this is actually what is going to shift your bank account. And this is actually what is going to provide the basis, the foundation for you to actually keep growing your business and your bank account in integrity, making sure you don't have crazy roller coasters, making sure you don't have like massive dips and all of that, because you understand that first of all, money comes from Creator. That source is infinite. No financial crisis, no recession, none of those things can affect it unless you buy into the narrative that they do, because Creator is stable regardless of who's in the Oval Office. Secondarily, you no longer let money make decisions for you, which means you don't let money rule over you. You are the one in control. You are the one in power. You lead money, not the other way around. And finally, when it comes to you honoring your desires, and your desires are placed into your heart by Creator, by your very soul, you do your due diligence to find the money, because the money will be there. Because you will be resourced for your next step. And it doesn't mean it's always going to be comfortable. It means that sometimes you may need to practice the virtue of humility and ask for help, which means you will have to prioritize your desires over your ego, which is not a bad thing, because it just means you're prioritizing your soul over your ego. And having a big ego is anyways not great for growing a successful business. It's going to slap you on your ass very, very, very quickly. Again, take it from personal experience of someone who's, Mars on ascendant. Like, I have very strong personality. But ultimately, money will be there because it makes no sense that you wouldn't be resourced for making and taking your next step on your evolution. For a person ready to grow, ready to do the work, ready to put their head down, ready to be humble, ready to do their best, ready to truly commit to their own evolution, their soul's evolution, the next step will always be provided. Every single time, because the entirety of creation wants to see you succeed, thrive, and be in alignment. And that is the truth. All right, ladies, gentlemen, I hope you deeply enjoyed this episode. If you loved it, please rate the podcast. I would be very grateful for that. Remember that if you rate any of my episodes, you get 200 euros off any of my higher level containers that include CEO frequency or one-on-one. At that point, it'll probably include more in the future. And there will also be soon, after I move to Sweden and get done with all the shenanigans, there will be a draw for everybody who rates the podcast and sends me a screenshot to win a 90-minute session with me, which is super excited. This is valued at 397 euro. So I would totally recommend getting yourself in the draw. Sending you lots and lots and lots of love, and until next time.